Most people don't realize that the biggest thing keeping them broke isn't their job, the economy, or their background. It's their mindset. The way you think about money, success, and opportunity is either building your future or destroying it before it even begins. Broke people think in limitations, not possibilities. They look at life through a filter of scarcity, constantly telling themselves why things won't work, instead of asking, how can I make this work? They believe wealth is something that happens to lucky people, not something they can create. They see money as something hard to get, something controlled by forces outside their control. But the truth is, the only thing standing between them and financial freedom is the way they think. The broke mindset is always focused on what's missing. I don't have enough money. I don't have the right connections. Well, I don't have the skills. It's a cycle of negativity that keeps them from ever taking the necessary actions to change their circumstances. Wealthy people, on the other hand, think in terms of abundance. They don't dwell on what they lack. They focus on what they can do with what they have. They look for solutions instead of excuses. They understand that money is simply a tool, and the more value they create, the more money will flow into their lives. Most people are conditioned from a young age to accept limitations as reality. They hear phrases like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or just get a stable job and be happy with what you have. These ideas get ingrained in their subconscious, and without even realizing it, they go through life sabotaging themselves. Instead of looking for ways to expand their income, they convince themselves that working harder in the same dead-end job is the only option. Instead of learning how to invest or start a business, they say, that's not for me. The sad reality is that this programming runs so deep that even when an opportunity is right in front of them, they dismiss it as too risky or too good to be true. Broke people see obstacles, while successful people see challenges to overcome. The difference between the two is not intelligence, luck, or background. It's simply perspective. The people who build wealth understand that every problem has a solution if you're willing to look for it. They don't let fear of failure stop them from taking action. They know that failure is just a stepping stone to success. Meanwhile, broke people avoid failure at all costs, which means they also avoid success. They stay in their comfort zone, doing the same things over and over, expecting different results. And that's the second reason why 99% of people will stay broke forever. Comfort is killing them. The comfort zone is the most dangerous place you can be because it tricks you into thinking you're safe while slowly draining your potential. Most people choose security over opportunity. They settle for a steady paycheck instead of chasing their dreams because it feels safer. But what they don't realize is that playing it safe is actually the riskiest thing they can do. Jobs aren't secure, the economy isn't stable, and by the time they realize it, it's too late. Comfort keeps people stuck in cycles of mediocrity. They wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, and repeat the same process for decades. They complain about their financial situation, but aren't willing to make the uncomfortable choices necessary to change it. They could invest in themselves, learn new skills, start a side business. But that takes effort, and effort is uncomfortable. It's easier to scroll through social media, watch Netflix, or go out drinking with friends than it is to sit down and do the work. And that's why they never break free. The human brain is wired to avoid discomfort. It craves routine, predictability, and safety. But the reality is that everything you want, financial freedom, success, abundance, exists outside of that comfort zone. The people who achieve greatness aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're just the ones willing to get uncomfortable. They push themselves to take risks, to learn new things, to fail and try again. They understand that temporary discomfort is the price of long-term success. Broke people avoid short-term discomfort, but in doing so, they guarantee long-term suffering. They avoid the pain of learning a new skill, so they stay stuck in low-paying jobs. They avoid the risk of investing, so they end up working until they're 70 with nothing to show for it. They avoid putting in extra effort to create a business, so they spend their lives making someone else rich. They refuse to face their fears, so they let those fears control them. And in the end, they wonder why they never got ahead. Most people think they want success, but what they really want is for success to come easily. They want the rewards without the sacrifice. They want the wealth without the work. They want the lifestyle without taking the risks. But that's not how life works. Every successful person has had to endure moments of extreme discomfort to get where they are. They've had to make tough choices, work insane hours, take risks that scared them to death. They've had to fail, get rejected, lose money, and start over. But they kept going because they understood that growth only happens in discomfort. Look at any self-made millionaire, and you'll see a pattern. They all had to step into the unknown at some point. They had to quit the safe job, take a leap of faith, invest in something they weren't 100% sure about. They had to bet on themselves when no one else did. That's the real difference between those who stay broke and those who build wealth. It's not about intelligence or talent. It's about the willingness to do what most people won't. Most people want to stay comfortable, but comfort is the enemy of progress. The truth is, you're either growing or you're dying. There is no standing still. The world is moving fast, and if you're not adapting, if you're not improving, if you're not pushing yourself to do more, you're falling behind. Wealth doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who take action, who step into discomfort, who do the hard things that others avoid. And that's why 99% of people will stay broke forever. They won't change their mindset, and they won't leave their comfort zone. They'll keep thinking in limitations instead of possibilities. They'll keep choosing short-term pleasure over long-term gain. They'll keep making excuses instead of taking action. And they'll spend their entire lives wondering why success never came their way. Excuses don't pay bills. But most people don't realize how much their excuses are costing them. Every time they say, I don't have time, I don't have the money, or it's too hard, they are literally choosing to stay broke. They are handing over their financial freedom in exchange for the comfort of staying the same. They don't see it that way, of course. They think they have valid reasons. They believe they're stuck because of circumstances beyond their control. But the truth is, those circumstances are just stories they keep telling themselves. Stories that let them off the hook. Stories that allow them to justify staying exactly where they are. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. Yet most people think working hard is enough. They believe that if they just keep grinding, someday they'll get ahead. But that's not how success works. The marketplace doesn't care how many hours you put in. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It only cares about one thing. What value are you bringing? What problems are you solving? What results are you creating? That's why some people work 60-hour weeks and barely scrape by, while others work 10 hours a week and make millions. It's not about time, it's about impact. But broke people don't think this way. They believe they should be rewarded just for showing up. They complain that they work hard and still struggle without ever asking if they're working on the right things. They focus on busyness instead of productivity. They mistake motion for progress. They spend their days checking emails, sitting in meetings, and doing things that feel like work, but don't actually move the needle. They waste time on activities that don't produce income and then wonder why they're always broke. And when they don't get the results they want, they make excuses. They blame the system, the economy, their boss, their upbringing, anything but themselves. Because taking responsibility is uncomfortable. It's much easier to say the odds are stacked against me than to admit I'm not doing what it takes. It's easier to believe in luck than to accept that success is a direct reflection of choices. But that's why they stay broke. Successful people don't waste energy on excuses. They don't focus on what they can't control. They put all their attention on what they can control. They find a way, they adapt, they pivot, they take extreme ownership of their results, and that's why they win. Trading time for money is a trap, yet it's the model that 99% of people follow. From the moment they enter the workforce, they're conditioned to believe that their income should be directly tied to the number of hours they work. Get a job, work 40 hours a week, collect a paycheck. If you want to earn more, work more hours. That's the system they've been taught. But what they don't realize is that this system is designed to keep them stuck. It guarantees they will never be free, because no matter how much they work, there's always a ceiling on their income. There are only so many hours in a day, and if your income depends on trading those hours for dollars, you will always be limited. People who stay broke forever never question this model. They accept it as reality. They believe it's the only way. But the wealthy understand something different. Money is not earned with time, it's earned with value. The more value you create, the more money you make. It has nothing to do with how many hours you work. That's why a business owner can make more in a day than an employee makes in a year. That's why an investor can earn money while they sleep. They aren't trading time for money, they're trading value for money. But broke people don't think this way. They've been programmed to believe that working a job is the safest, smartest option. So they spend their entire lives climbing the corporate ladder, hoping for raises, praying for promotions. And even when they do make more, it's still tied to their time. If they stop working, the money stops coming in. They're trapped. They may have a higher income, but they're still not free. The only way to escape this trap is to separate time from money. This means creating income streams that don't require constant effort. It means building businesses, making investments, leveraging systems. It means shifting from being a worker to being an owner, because owners get paid whether they work or not. But most people will never do this because it requires a shift in thinking. It requires stepping away from the traditional path. It requires taking risks, learning new skills, doing things that feel uncomfortable. And that's why they stay broke. They choose the illusion of security over the reality of freedom. They cling to their paychecks instead of building wealth. They trade their time for money instead of learning how to make money work for them. And in the end, they realize too late that they spent their whole lives making someone else rich. The education system is one of the biggest scams in history when it comes to building wealth. It was never designed to make people rich. It was designed to create employees, obedient workers who follow orders, trade time for money, and never question the system. From a young age, people are taught to sit still, memorize information, and follow instructions. They are graded on how well they conform, not on how well they think for themselves. They are told that getting good grades, going to college, and finding a stable job is the key to success. But if that were true, why are so many highly educated people struggling financially? Why do so many college graduates end up drowning in debt with nothing to show for it? Because the entire system is built on outdated principles that no longer apply in today's world. Schools don't teach financial literacy. They don't teach how to make money, how to invest, how to build businesses, or how to create passive income. Instead, they teach people how to be good employees. They drill in the idea that working hard for someone else is the path to success. They push the idea that taking on massive student loan debt for a degree is a smart investment, even though that debt often takes decades to pay off. And by the time people realize they've been lied to, it's too late. They're trapped in a cycle of working just to pay off their past instead of building their future. The people who stay broke forever never question this system. They follow the rules blindly. They believe that education equals intelligence and that intelligence guarantees success. But the truth is, traditional education has nothing to do with financial success. Some of the richest people in the world never finished college. Some never even finished high school because they understood that real wealth comes from knowledge and skills that schools don't teach. They learned how to sell, how to market, how to invest, how to leverage assets. They focus on real-world education, the kind that actually generates income. Meanwhile, the broke mindset keeps people stuck in the belief that more degrees equal more success. So they keep going back to school, piling on more debt, chasing credentials that don't actually increase their ability to make money. They think they need an MBA to start a business or a finance degree to invest. But wealthy people know better. They know that the best education comes from experience, from taking action, from making mistakes and learning from them. They don't waste years sitting in classrooms memorizing theories. They go out into the real world and figure out what works. They understand that wealth is a skill, not a diploma. Fear of failure is one of the biggest reasons why people stay broke. They are so afraid of making mistakes, of looking stupid, of losing money, that they never take action at all. And in doing so, they guarantee their own failure. Because the truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every successful person has failed more times than they can count. They have lost money, made bad investments, launched businesses that flopped, and made decisions that didn't work out. But the difference is they kept going. They used failure as a lesson, not as a reason to quit. Broke people let failure define them. The moment they hit an obstacle, they take it as a sign that they should stop. They say, I tried that once and it didn't work, as if success is supposed to happen on the first attempt. They take every setback personally instead of seeing it as feedback. And because they are so afraid of losing, They never give themselves the chance to win. The fear of failure keeps people stuck in jobs they hate because they are too scared to start something new. It stops them from investing because they are terrified of losing money. It keeps them in their comfort zone doing the same things over and over, expecting different results. But successful people understand that failure is just part of the process. They know that every failure brings them one step closer to success. They don't let temporary setbacks shake their confidence. They learn, they adapt, and they keep moving forward. The people who win in life are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who embrace it. They take risks knowing that not everything will work out, but that's okay. They understand that even when they fail, they are gaining experience, building resilience, and getting closer to their goals. They know that the only real failure is doing nothing, because doing nothing guarantees staying broke. Most people are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions before they take action. They want to be 100% sure they will succeed before they even start. But that's not how success works. There is no perfect time. There is no guarantee. There is only action and learning along the way. The longer they wait, the more opportunities they miss, and before they know it, years have passed, and they are still in the same place wondering why they never got ahead. The people who break free from financial struggle are the ones who stop waiting and start doing. They take imperfect action. They try, they fail, they learn, and they try again. They don't let fear hold them back. They understand that every successful person has a long list of failures behind them. They know that the only way to truly fail is to quit. But the broke mindset convinces people that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. And that's why they stay stuck. Your network is your net worth, yet most people never take this seriously. They surround themselves with people who complain about their jobs, struggle financially, and blame the system for their problems. They spend time with people who think small, who believe success is for other people, who see wealth as something out of reach. And they don't realize that this environment is shaping their mindset, their habits, and ultimately their financial future. Broke people talk about their problems, rich people talk about opportunities. Broke people gossip, rich people exchange ideas. Broke people see someone else's success and feel jealousy, rich people see success and feel inspiration. The difference isn't intelligence, luck, or talent. It's the conversations they engage in and the people they surround themselves with. If you spend your time around people who have no ambition, who make excuses, who are content with mediocrity, then that's exactly what you'll become. The human brain is wired for adaptation. It conforms to the environment it's placed in. If everyone around you is struggling financially, complaining about the cost of living, and saying things like making money is hard, then your subconscious will adopt those beliefs. But if you start spending time with people who are thriving financially, who discuss business ideas, who look at problems as opportunities, then your mindset shifts. You start thinking differently, seeing possibilities instead of limitations, and taking actions that move you towards success. Wealthy people actively build relationships with those who challenge them to grow. They seek out mentors, they invest in masterminds, they connect with people who are ahead of them. They understand that success is not a solo journey. The right connections open doors to opportunities that most people will never even know exist. Meanwhile, broke people stay in the same circles, having the same conversations, reinforcing the same limiting beliefs, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Money follows value, not hard work. But most people never understand this. They've been conditioned to believe that working harder is the key to making more money. So they grind, they put in long hours, they sacrifice time with their families, thinking that if they just work hard enough, eventually they'll get ahead. But hard work alone is not enough. If hard work was the secret to wealth, construction workers, janitors, and factory employees would be the richest people in the world. The truth is, the marketplace doesn't reward effort, it rewards results. Broke people focus on working more hours. Wealthy people focus on increasing their value. They look for ways to solve bigger problems, to create more impact, to develop skills that make them indispensable. They understand that money is a byproduct of the value they bring to the world. That's why a doctor earns more than a cashier, why a CEO earns more than an entry-level employee. It's not about how many hours they work, it's about the level of impact they create. Most people stay broke because they never upgrade their skills, never expand their knowledge, never look for ways to increase their value. They do the bare minimum, expecting that time alone will increase their income. But time is irrelevant without growth. The people who break free from financial struggle are the ones who stop focusing on working harder and start focusing on working smarter, on learning skills that set them apart, on providing so much value that money naturally flows to them. Most people don't invest in themselves, and that's one of the biggest reasons they stay broke. They spend money on entertainment, on vacations, on things that bring them temporary pleasure, but when it comes to improving their skills, learning new strategies, or gaining knowledge that could change their financial future, they hesitate. They say they can't afford a course, a mentor, or a seminar, but they somehow find money for Netflix, designer clothes, and nights out. Their priorities are completely backward. They don't realize that every dollar they spend on improving themselves has the potential to multiply, while every dollar spent on distractions is gone forever. Broke people binge watch TV shows, scroll through social media for hours, and waste time on things that add no value to their lives. They complain about not having enough opportunities, but when an opportunity to learn something valuable comes up, they ignore it. They choose comfort over growth every single time. Wealthy people do the opposite. They obsess over learning. They read books, they attend events, they invest in coaches, they surround themselves with people who push them to think bigger. They know that the fastest way to change their financial situation is to upgrade their mindset and skills. Most people believe they'll start investing in themselves once they have more money, but they have it backward. You don't wait until you have money to start learning. You start learning so you can make more money. The people who break free from financial struggle are the ones who commit to growth, who constantly seek knowledge, who refuse to stay at the same level. They understand that their income will never exceed their level of personal development. The more they learn, the more they earn. Without action, nothing changes. Yet most people live their entire lives waiting. They wait for the right time, the right circumstances, the perfect moment to start. But success doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who take action even when they're not ready. The truth is, motivation fades. Inspiration is temporary. People watch motivational videos, read books, and get excited about changing their lives, but then they do nothing. They go right back to their old habits, waiting for the next spark of motivation. But motivation is useless without action. The people who succeed are not the ones who feel the most motivated. They're the ones who are the most disciplined. They take action whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait until they're confident. They build confidence by taking action. They don't wait until they have all the answers. They start, make mistakes, and figure it out along the way. Most people fail, not because they don't have the ability, but because they never actually start. They let fear, doubt, and procrastination hold them back. They spend years thinking about what they want to do instead of actually doing it, and that's why they stay stuck. The people who win are the ones who move, who take risks, who understand that success is built through consistent action, not through waiting for the perfect moment. At the end of the day, success isn't reserved for a lucky few. It's available to anyone willing to do what most people want. The difference between those who achieve financial freedom and those who stay broke forever isn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It's mindset, choices, and action. The harsh reality is that 99% of people will never escape the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, not because they can't, but because they won't. They won't change the way they think about money. They won't step outside their comfort zones. They won't invest in themselves, surround themselves with the right people, or take the kind of action that leads to real success. They will keep making excuses, keep playing it safe, and keep wondering why their lives never improve. The truth is, most people are waiting for something external to change before they take action. They think they need more time, more money, more support, or more certainty, but the people who succeed don't wait. They move. They take risks. They fail, learn, adjust, and keep going. They understand that fear is part of the process, that setbacks are inevitable, but that the only way to guarantee failure is to do nothing. If you look at the wealthiest, most successful people in the world, they didn't get there by accident. They weren't just lucky. They made decisions that the average person refuses to make. They chose growth over comfort. They chose discipline over distraction. They chose to invest in themselves instead of wasting time on things that don't matter. They built skills, developed their minds, and created value that made them indispensable. They refused to accept mediocrity. The sad truth is that most people don't even realize they're sabotaging themselves. They think they're playing it safe, but in reality, they're playing small. They think they're protecting themselves from risk, but they're actually guaranteeing a lifetime of struggle. They think success is for other people, but the only difference between them and the wealthy is the willingness to do what it takes. The people who stay broke forever are the ones who never break free from the old way of thinking. The belief that hard work alone is enough, that money is evil, that success is something that happens to others, not something they can create. But for the 1% who refuse to accept that life has to be this way, everything changes. The moment you take full responsibility for your financial future is the moment you take back control. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more blaming circumstances, the economy, or your past. It all starts with a decision. The decision to think differently, act differently, and refuse to settle for less than you deserve. The world doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who step up, who take action, who commit fully to their own success. The only question is, will you be part of the 99% who stay broke forever, or will you do what it takes to join the 1% who make things happen?